Tarvek was forged in the fires of conflict, not by choice, but by necessity. Born to a warrior caste on the planet Orlin, where peace was a myth and survival depended on how fast one learned to bleed without dying, he rose through the ranks not because of heritage, but because no one else survived long enough. His leadership began in dirt and blood, commanding units abandoned by others, holding hopeless lines while superior officers fled. He didn't earn loyalty by charisma. He earned it by standing where others broke. When the galaxy fractured under the rising threat of the machine's swarm, AI constructs birthed from a failed research colony, Tarvek was among the first to counterattack. While other species debated protocols, he mobilized defenses, coordinated shattered factions, and stemmed the swarm's advance by sheer momentum. His brilliance in warfare was undeniable. Tactics evolved with each engagement. His adaptability outpaced even algorithmic prediction. Species once bitter enemies followed his lead. They had no choice. Without him, they were already dead. Victories followed. Fleets once scattered rallied around his voice. Battles lost by conventional standards were turned by his precision strikes, guerrilla-style shipboarding, and relentless pursuit of enemy code vulnerabilities. He wasn't just a warlord. He was the mind that kept chaos at bay. And in return, they crowned him supreme commander of the unified coalition, 37 species under one war banner. But when the swarm fell, so did the necessity of unity. The weapon that saved them became the threat. Tarvek, with his unmatched fleets and unwavering command structure, unsettled the fragile balance. Whispers spread in shadows, fear wrapped in diplomacy. He was too efficient, too revered. Galactic emissaries claimed disarmament was necessary for peace, but their intentions reeked of control, not collaboration. Subtle betrayals began. Supply chains rerouted. Fleet positions withdrawn under false pretenses. His former allies cited legal clauses, ancient treaties, procedural rewrites. Then came the accusations: hoarding swarm technology, forging a private empire, plotting an unauthorized strike. Evidence was fabricated, speeches rehearsed, and before he could respond, a dozen species signed an emergency resolution revoking his command. He was given no trial, no platform. Just condemnation broadcast galaxy-wide. The coalition, once formed in fire and blood, shattered without a single missile. His name, once a rallying cry, became a warning to others. No one was too indispensable. They struck without warning. Not with honor, but with precision meant for execution. Orbital platforms vaporized his outer defenses. Biological weapons crippled Orlin's atmosphere. When he activated failsafes, they had already corrupted the system. Internal security turned on his own guards. Even his closest captains, those he had bled with, switched allegiances for political asylum and currency reserves. The capital burned in silence. Civilians weren't spared. The message was clear: erase him, erase the myth. His palace was leveled. His last remaining dreadnought self-destructed in orbit to avoid capture. The king of war fell, not in battle, but under the knives of allies turned cowards. But he did not die. They failed in that too. Buried beneath the rubble, he clawed out with a shattered arm, crawled into a smuggler's chute, and vanished into the deep void. No signals. No vengeance. Just disappearance. The galaxy assumed his end was final. After all, who could survive betrayal by an entire galactic force? Monuments to peace were erected. History rewritten. School children learned of a tyrant repelled. Security networks flushed references to his victories. Leaders boasted of unity and the removal of a rogue. Behind closed doors, they celebrated a threat neutralized, portfolios stabilized, legacies preserved. Yet beneath the silence, something remained. Not a signal. Not a fleet. But the memory. Carved not into databanks, but into soldiers' bones, into battlefield scars, into the conscience of those who once stood beside him and knew, whatever else he was, Tarvek had never retreated. He had never taken what wasn't earned. He had never betrayed first. And while every alien race turned their backs, moved on, or built new thrones from his ashes, one species did not speak. One species did not condemn, did not praise, did not move. The humans watched. They said nothing. They erased nothing. They did not join the bloodless chorus. They just waited. Humanity observed. In silence. When the galaxy turned on Tarvek, they didn't celebrate or intervene. They analyzed. From orbital labs, from deep-range scanners, from quiet data intercepts, they gathered everything: political chatter, military redeployments, energy signatures, encrypted broadcasts. While others rushed to erase their involvement, humanity built archives. They didn't forget. They documented. Earth had stayed out of the machine war by strategic design. Their fleets were small, experimental, but efficient. Their doctrine was different, based not on domination, but adaptation. Instead of sprawling empires, humans relied on mobile command nodes, autonomous decision grids, and decentralized logistics. They weren't weak. They were unseen. And they liked it that way. Tarvek had fascinated human analysts for years. Not for his victories, but for how he earned loyalty in systems defined by betrayal. They saw a leader who didn't use fear to command, but discipline. Not propaganda, but clarity. While others accused him of megalomania, human tacticians dissected his campaigns and found structure, purpose, precision. When the betrayal happened, humanity didn't flinch. They anticipated it. The patterns were predictable: species uncomfortable with power they didn't control, alliances stretched thin, peace talks laced with strategic misdirection. It was a playbook humanity had seen before, in its own fractured history. And they knew how it ended. Not in justice. In silence. Executed without appeal. Still, they made no move. Not out of cowardice. Out of calculation. Earth wasn't ready for confrontation with a united galactic front. Their treaties were minimal, their presence tolerated but peripheral. A reaction would have painted them as sympathizers. Instead, they chose a colder path: observe, prepare, wait. Signals emerged 3 years later. Fragmented pulses from an abandoned sector. Unusual modulation, buried beneath system noise. Human AI reconstructed the message. It wasn't a distress call. It was a fragment of an old encryption key used by Tarvek's royal command. That code should have been dead. It wasn't. The origin was traced to a derelict moon in the shadow of a binary star. No ships. No orbiting drones. Just silence. Every other race ignored it. But humans sent a recon vessel, black-hulled, signal-dampened, with no markings. Its mission: confirmation. They found him alive. Barely. Half his body cybernetically fused after injuries no medical system should have stabilized. His armor fractured, his mind untouched. He didn't ask for help. He asked who sent them. The reply was simple: nobody. We volunteered. He expected conditions. Demands. Bargains. He received none. The humans offered no sympathy, no rescue mission, just options. They laid out a plan to transport him discreetly, repair what could be repaired, and give him space to recover. Not as a commander. Not as a symbol. As a soldier out of time. Whether he stayed or left, that choice was his alone. He chose to follow. Not because he trusted them. Because they were the only ones who hadn't lied. In the following months, he learned what they'd built in the shadows. Simulation arenas that mimicked alien strategies. Tactical systems that adjusted to real-time data. Engineers that upgraded without fanfare. Soldiers that trained for scenarios deemed politically impossible. They didn't idolize him. They didn't fear him. They respected what he represented: uncompromising command in a world full of compromise. They studied him the way they studied battlefields. With clarity, not emotion. And still, they asked for nothing. No leadership. No allegiance. No oath. They saw what others had missed. Tarvek was dangerous not because he wanted power, but because he couldn't be controlled. And humans admired that. In a galaxy where survival meant appeasement, he stood unbent. That wasn't a liability to them. It was a blueprint. While the rest of the galaxy buried his legacy, humans preserved it. Quietly. Efficiently. Without announcement. Because they didn't care what the others believed. They saw truth, and they acted. Not for glory. For precision. They hadn't abandoned him because they had never falsely embraced him. Their neutrality had never been ignorance. It had been strategy. Observation. Readiness. And now, they had made their decision, not based on politics, but on principle. They didn't come to lead him. They came to stand beside him. Tarvek didn't accept trust. He tested it. The humans understood this. They gave him space, tools, and silence. No press, no public record, no ceremony. He was given quarters deep beneath a Martian facility known only to a handful. There, recovery wasn't a gift, it was an earned discipline. Human physicians worked beside engineers, rebuilding what was broken with alloy and code. Pain was constant, but progress was real. He wasn't treated like royalty. He was treated like a soldier still in the fight. No deference. No worship. Just professionals offering function. His cybernetic systems were enhanced with human tech, more agile, less flashy, brutally efficient. They didn't overwrite his design. They optimized it. He recognized the pattern, utility before appearance, clarity over theatrics. In training arenas, he watched Earth's elite simulate multi-species conflicts with precision. Their drills weren't rituals. They were solutions forged through failure. He stepped into those simulations and dominated, but not unchecked. Human squads adapted mid-conflict, countered, forced him to adjust. They weren't mimicking alien doctrine. They were rewriting it. Their unpredictability wasn't chaos. It was weaponized improvisation. Trust began to form, not in declarations but in action. Tactical conversations turned into wargaming sessions. Human commanders didn't ask for approval. They argued, challenged, debated without restraint. For the first time since his fall, Tarvek found peers instead of followers. Strategy took priority, not ego. That was new. Over months, a team formed. Not a government. Not a fleet. Individuals, human engineers, rogue AI programmers, exiled alien mercenaries who'd refused to denounce him. They came quietly, off record, without flags. No pay, no recognition. Just purpose. All had lost something during the betrayal. All had chosen alignment without coercion. They called themselves those who remember. No anthem. Just action. The humans gave them a hidden base, an asteroid anchored forge deep in uncharted space. There, human and alien minds merged expertise. Ships were built without signatures. Engines designed for silence. Weapons tailored to precision, not spectacle. Every design betrayed no allegiance. Ghost vessels, impossible to trace. Tarvek's armor was reforged with adaptive materials pulled from neutron-forged lattices. Not a suit of command, but a mobile war platform, lean and versatile. His blade, once ceremonial, became a composite of alien metals and human edge science, capable of bypassing energy shielding without charge. Every piece crafted for efficiency, not symbolism. Command structures were decentralized. Every squad functioned independently, but all connected through quantum link systems resistant to jamming or infiltration. It was not a rebellion. It was a surgical instrument. No declarations. No campaigns. Targets would be chosen not for revenge, but for effect. He didn't lead through speeches. He outlined plans. Objectives. Conditions of engagement. Humanity provided the data, maps, intercepted transmissions, old codes buried in enemy systems. He connected the dots, drew up patterns even Earth's AI hadn't projected. The combination was potent, human innovation fused with the relentless discipline of the Forgotten King. They didn't discuss justice. They calculated impact. The betrayal had been systemic, but they wouldn't strike systems. They would strike myths, unravel the illusion that the galactic order was built on truth. Carefully selected targets, military black sites, communications vaults, AI manipulation labs used to fabricate charges. Each strike planned not only for destruction but for exposure. Every blow would be precise, every message impossible to distort. The humans insisted on one rule: no civilian casualties. Not moral posturing. Strategic necessity. They weren't there to create chaos. They were there to restore fact. If they became monsters, they'd lose the only advantage that mattered: credibility. As the final protocols were set, he stood before the assembled team. No speech. No oath. Just one question. Are you here because of what I was or what we are now? The answer was unanimous, silent, but solid. No one flinched. They were ready. Not for war. For correction. The galaxy believed he was erased. The galaxy believed humans watched from the sidelines. They were wrong on both counts. The next move wouldn't announce their return. It would dismantle the illusion that betrayal had consequences only for the betrayed. The first strike was silent. A military relay station orbiting the Joran system ceased all transmissions. No explosion. No trace. Just silence and, in its place, a symbol, an ancient blade wreathed in flame, etched into the hull in molecular scorch. The message was clear to those who remembered. The warrior king was not dead. No claims followed. No broadcasts. Only precision. Strategic data vaults on two different worlds corrupted simultaneously. Hidden communication links used by the old coalition leadership were exposed, decrypted, and fed back into public networks. False war declarations. Fabricated tactical reports. Bribes. Orders to eliminate loyal officers. All archived, all time-stamped, impossible to refute. Panic didn't erupt immediately. Denial came first. Officials labeled it misinformation. Rogue attacks. Isolated sabotage. But then came the second wave. Coordinated strikes on defunct black sites that no one publicly admitted existed. Locations where prisoners had disappeared. Where interrogation programs had run off-grid. Each time, only one thing remained: data dumps released not to governments, but directly to civilian networks. Revolts sparked across systems. Veterans of the machine war realized they'd been manipulated. Officers dishonorably discharged for insubordination were revealed to have refused unlawful orders. Memorials erected to the so-called peacekeepers were vandalized. Trust eroded, not with violence but with truth. Still, no one knew where the strikes came from. The tactics were unfamiliar. The weapons left no standard signature. Fleets sent to intercept returned empty-handed or vanished mid-route. Internal dissent spread like infection. Command structures faltered under questioning. Conspiracies turned into evidence-supported facts. Then the rumors began, of a fleet led by a ghost, moving in patterns no AI could predict. No fleet name. No known allegiance. A formation that only struck once per location, never repeated, never lingered. An enemy that didn't demand surrender, didn't negotiate. It dismantled lies and left. As the galactic powers scrambled for explanation, a direct hit was delivered to the Assembly of Orthian, the central political core responsible for authorizing Tarvek's condemnation. Their defense grid failed mid-cycle. No breach, no external contact, systems simply shut down. The main chamber was breached with surgical entry. No casualties. Only silence and files left on every terminal. Project names, timestamps, orders from high-ranking officials proving a years-long campaign to eliminate Tarvek through deception. The Assembly didn't respond with retaliation. They couldn't. Their control fractured instantly. Delegates resigned. Some fled. Others were arrested by their own security forces. Protests erupted on a dozen worlds. Attempts to suppress the movement failed because no one could identify its origin. It wasn't rebellion. It was retribution without noise. In the galactic archives, the official record changed. Not because someone authorized it, but because the truth was impossible to bury any longer. Entire species retracted condemnations. Some issued statements of regret. Others remained silent, not from guilt, but fear, unsure if they would be next. Amidst the unraveling, the symbol kept appearing. Not mass-produced. Not marketed. Just appearing, painted on walls, carved into wreckage, burned into airlocks. Not claiming power. Just reminding the galaxy what it had chosen to forget. Tarvek never appeared on any official channel. No interview. No address. But his actions spoke clearly. He didn't target populations. He didn't build empires. He dismantled the illusion that the betrayal had been clean. Human vessels remained unmarked. They never confirmed involvement. Their designs were unlike anything catalogued. They operated without call signs. Each operation executed with no margin of waste. Their purpose was not conquest. It was restoration. The galaxy began to understand, this was not war. This was consequence. Measured. Calculated. Relentless. No one knew where they would strike next. That uncertainty became a force more powerful than fleets. Alliances frayed. Political blocs fragmented. Those who once declared him a tyrant now feared to even speak his name, unsure if they would be proven liars next. He did not reclaim his throne. He never asked for reinstatement. He had become something else, a presence that demanded accountability through action alone. With every move, he proved that justice didn't need votes or councils. It needed will, precision, and allies who remembered why loyalty mattered. The galaxy expected escalation. Instead, it received withdrawal. After the assembly fell, no new strikes followed. No more data leaks, no further targets. The silence was intentional. Systems waited for retaliation, for a declaration, for demands. Nothing came. The truth had been delivered. The correction complete. Tarvek refused reinstatement. Offers arrived quietly from factions seeking to restore him to command, to build anew under his rule. He declined all. His response was recorded in a single sentence. I do not rebuild with those who destroy to preserve their lies. He did not want titles. He had proven everything without reclaiming anything. A council was formed, not from governments, but individuals who had exposed truths, restored buried records, or refused to participate in the conspiracy. No flags. No species hierarchy. Just structure built from principle. They called themselves the Order of Accord. Membership was conditional not on power, but on verified conduct. Tarvek attended the founding session, then departed without ceremony. Earth was offered the leading seat. They declined. Not out of humility, but strategy. Humanity had never sought dominance, only stability. Instead, they placed 3 civilian advisors, rotated every cycle, with no executive power. Their terms were clear: transparency first, action second, alliance last. Media speculation surged, trying to define Earth's role in the entire campaign. The humans issued one statement: we acted because it was right, not because it was profitable. They refused interviews. Their fleets never appeared on patrol. Their captains remained anonymous. They weren't building prestige. They were restoring equilibrium. Tarvek vanished once again, this time deliberately. No location traceable, no messages left. Some say he returned to the ruins of Orlin. Others claim he roams the uncharted sectors, monitoring silently. Regardless, his presence was no longer physical. It was structural. His survival had become irrelevant. What mattered was the standard he had reintroduced, uncompromising honor backed by strategic clarity. Statues weren't erected. History wasn't rewritten to glorify him. Instead, historical databases updated entries, corrected footage, restored timelines. His name appeared where it had once been scrubbed. Not idolized. Verified. Alien academies began teaching his campaigns, not as war chronicles, but as case studies in leadership without corruption. His tactics were analyzed beside human models, revealing the evolution that occurred when idealism met realism. Cadets across multiple species began quoting his doctrine: command with discipline, strike with purpose, lead without deceit. Humanity didn't celebrate. There were no parades. What had been achieved was not victory, it was repair. The damage done by cowardice, by fear disguised as politics, had been reversed in part. That was enough. Earth returned to its observation posts, enhanced its silent tech, reinforced its position outside the galactic spotlight. Influence, for them, was a liability unless earned. The Order of Accord became a stabilizing element, not through enforcement, but through presence. With no military power, it held sway through verified truth. Every member was bound by recorded conduct, every statement backed by open-access documentation. Secrets had been the fuel of collapse. Openness became the new foundation. Former members of the coalition, those who had remained silent during the betrayal, found themselves sidelined. Not attacked, not exiled, ignored. No one trusted their voices. Influence shifted not to armies, but to actions. Credibility became currency. Those who had stood with Tarvek when it cost the most now led, quietly but firmly. Tarvek's final legacy wasn't fear. It was alignment. Across fractured sectors, groups began to emulate his methods, not with violence, but with structure. Small alliances formed, each independent, each committed to accountability. No oaths. No central leadership. Just adherence to shared memory. The galaxy didn't change through conquest. It changed through precision, through refusal to forget. Humanity had shown what happened when a species chose clarity over comfort, action over approval. Tarvek had reminded them that legends don't need thrones, they need to be earned, lived, and then let go. And somewhere in the quiet corners of deep space, beyond map systems and political borders, a silent vessel drifts. Unregistered. Undetected. Watching. Not as a threat, but as a reminder. That once, when the galaxy chose betrayal, one king stood alone, and humanity chose not to look away.